High School Media Center, our Building Ground Transportation and Security Committee agenda meeting. Present tonight is myself, the chair, Mr. Piro, board president, Ms. Fabiano, Ms. Bohr from the board, Dr. Chanley, Dr. Lehman, Mitch Ratner, Director Selby, and Director Mortar, and Director Tate. We're going to start this meeting off with Mr. Haig with what we have for building and grounds.
So item number 1 on the agenda is the annual structural report on bleachers. Shared this report out with the committee. It's something we have done every year. We bring in a consulting structural engineer, review the bleachers at the stadium, main field, side soccer fields, etc. They also come into the schools and inspect the bleachers here in schools, high schools, stadium bleachers, as well as the bleachers that we have in the Performing Arts Center, and then the gymnasium bleachers at the middle school. Solid report. Essentially, they're telling us that the stadium bleachers have another 10 years of life with continued maintenance.
Wow.
Nothing, I saw nothing recommended. There were no recommendations. We're
Correct.
good to go.
Correct. Few minor vandalism things on the bleachers here at the high school and gymnasium. Those have been repaired. Not an issue, but we're in good shape.
So if I can, Mr. Piro, there are no changes, right, from the last year's report? There's pretty, last time that we did this, it was, and I remember bringing this up last time, Mr. Tate. I don't know if this was ever discussed outside of the BGNT. The main stadium bleachers have a gap.
Yeah, that was brought up.
It always bothered me, especially because we have a lot of families that come with little kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of people drop things there, which is fine, but it's just little kids that feel, they have to be extra careful with little kids out there. So our bleachers have 10 years of life, according to the report. Could we put like some sort of,
Rise room.
remedial-
That was requested last year by the committee, did not make it through the budget, so.
what is the cost of it? Or did we ever determine that? What would be the cost of covering those gaps?
I don't know.
In a creative, out of the box way, we don't want fancy, we just want safety. If we could revisit that.
Forget what the number.
I know they're going to be doing the budget defense round now. It is safety, it's liability.
And maybe it's a concept. Every time we keep on talking about what our expectations are with kindergarten and cost, we can talk about if, because I'd have to present it to the board and you make the decision. If the board decides that perhaps there may be a small referendum of some sort, perhaps something like that would be it. I mean, there are different ways in which we could look that whenever we think about a referendum, it should be educationally sound always. A need, not just a want, but it should really be a must-have. And we all feel very strongly about kindergarten, but at the same time, maybe these types of things, Dr. Lehman and I was speaking and he brought it up, maybe we look at certain things and maybe this is one of them.
I also think, I know we discussed that you wanted, as much as we all have discussed full day kindergarten ad nauseum.
Yes. I
You
sleep
wanted
it, I wake up to it.
people to buy in as well. I've started, attending high school football games. The bleachers, they're in great shape. They're
But
so,
they're not safe for little kids.
right, and I have a kindergartner ironically, and I'm like walking, she can go downstairs, and it's like slower, and they're also very crowded.
The ones on the cage are wonderful, right? Mr. Tate, the ones on the
Mr. Tate, we're
cage
gonna
field
sit
are
back
great.
to see what it would
What it cost?
Yeah, what's the cost? And we don't want something that, it doesn't have to match the quality of the material that we sit on. It's just to be
at the best price.
If I can just also ask, just because we're doing the bleacher discussion, when were the bleachers put in there? Was it when our enrollment was significantly smaller? Or was it just because I only know from having gone to some of the football games how crowded our home bleachers are. Obviously that's a much bigger cost than just the safety thing, but in a discussion of a referendum, I was curious, if they were designed for the enrollment of the high school that we have now, or.
What is the capacity? I think she's asking.
Yeah, space.
I've been here 35 years. The bleachers were here when I got here, so I don't know.
Okay.
Definitely.
Definitely.
You
It
had,
was
he
the
answered
same
your
time when I went to high school here, so.
I haven't changed in the time that I've been here.
Okay.
The school population obviously has changed significantly.
Right, sure.
1,000 student high school where
Right.
we previously explored as a potential capital project, kind of a wish listing. We have got
1,000 seat.
ideas on expanding the bleachers, basically doubling the size.
And that could be part of a referendum.
Yeah, and the concept there was not to replace So the bleachers that are there now, you were kind of landlocked based on the field house and what was the old concession stand, which is now the power substations are out there, so you really can't go further on that side. So the idea would be to make the
Visitor
bleachers
side.
The visitor
side,
side.
home
Flip
side.
it and then be able to expand, yeah. It actually, we did have this conversation. There are some plans, but you know,
1,000-person
everything's a
bleachers with storage underneath.
yes. And then we even
It was a
talked
beautiful
about,
plan.
we even talked about utilizing the concept, we had this conversation about food trucks rather than, because a very large expense would be to, you know, create a full-blown, you know, kitchen and so forth. So, and that's a very big thing and could work things out. So, I mean, these are good conversations to have because if we see monies, we see costs, you know, maybe the part you're talking about, and I want to make this statement, I'm sure you all agree, the bleachers are safe.
Yes.
The bleachers are safe.
Very
I
safe.
think we asked this report to be put on the website last year, just to.
You're right, you're right.
Right,
Transparent.
and they are safe, but if we could look, maybe the cost to change, to just, what would we say, to seal, maybe it's minimal, and maybe we could put it in this year's budget, I don't know. But maybe, a change to moving to having more bleachers on the other side, maybe that's part of a referendum conversation. And then you say to people that are very heavily involved, and maybe there are people that come out to the games and don't even have children in school, oh, I would vote for that.
So in your words, wants, must have, and
I would say needs, wants, and must have,
our need is definitely to cover that gap.
yes.
So that families that come watch the games can actually watch
Our
the game.
want is to increase the capacity for
Our
games.
want is to increase the
Capacity, and I must have seen them.
And, you know, our teams go to all of these, you know,
Oh, yeah.
anybody in the red division, or in the GMCs, their stadiums are bigger than ours. Yeah, they are, and watching guys go there.
We probably pull in the book up.
Okay.
So if he has a estimate from the last 2 years, I'm sure we can pull those numbers up for our next meeting and
Yeah,
discuss it.
yes, thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, moving to item number 2 on the agenda is the annual integrated pest management program review. In accordance with the School IPM Act, which went into effect in 2002, Chapter 117 requires that we maintain an IPM policy that is to be reviewed annually, which it is. Prior to the meeting, I shared with the committee sample from one of the schools. I gave you the Applecross school. And reviewed this with all the school principals. No one has any recommendations for changes. We developed this 20-some years ago based on a program that Rutgers had. I can tell you, we have been audited, I think, 3 times in about the last 10 or 12 years, where the health department shows up, audits our program, and then audits what we do in terms of when we have fertilizer application and those kind of things. They want to make sure we issue notifications,
Signage.
postings, all that kind of stuff, and we pass the flying colors all along. So I don't have any recommendations to change to this. None of the principals had any recommendations. Solid program, continues to go. We are required to review it annually, so.
Great.
Mr. Puro, if I can, so we've not made any changes on the chemicals that we've been using in the last over a decade, you think?
Well, one of the things that we did many years ago, we actually were part of a pilot program. There was a woman in the community, I forget her name. She was an environmentalist and came to us and requested that we kind of start an IPM program before the state had mandated it, and we did. And one of the things we did was we stopped putting fertilizer, weed killer, all those kind of things on all of the schools except where we have athletic fields. So you figure what we have saved monetarily and also environmentally in 20 years of not putting down weed killer,
Significant.
fertilizer, et cetera,
Significant.
Markley Brook, Brookside, Woodland, Mill Lake, Applegarth, et cetera. Granted, we see dandelions on those fields, but
That's fine.
dandelions don't hurt anybody.
Kids love them.
It's like, exactly, I was just
So
gonna say,
many dandelions every year. Dandelions are great.
they serve double purposes, yes.
There you
So that is done well by us, and the program also pushes you not to use chemicals. You know, when we have an ant sighting in school, for example, we use mint oil as a first response. And there are threshold levels in here after you get so many X type of bug, then you move to the next level, and we always try and steer away from chemicals unless
Yeah, that was my only thing, that are we going climate friendly in terms of our chemicals? So that would be the only change we would probably want to do year over year. And like you said, the weed killers not needed, we got done with it, we saved money and we also got environmentally friendly, so. If we need to collaborate with the town environmental commission and just show them this report and see if they have any recommendations, I don't know if that is a thought
I
upcoming.
don't think that's necessary because this is a school IPMX, so it's different from. We
Okay.
can,
Okay,
comply with the school regs. We actually kind of go, again, above and beyond.
I was gonna say, we probably do more than that.
So,
environment.
Yeah.
Okay. That was all my question.
Mhm.
Thank you.
okay. Next item, number 3 on the agenda is the Applegarth HVAC upgrade project rebid. I just wanted to alert you that we have advertised this for rebid, based on recommendation from the attorney. I won't go into the details of the legal recommendation because it was a confidential document, but their advice was to reject those bids and rebid,
Mhm.
which we have, and the bid opening is at the end of this month, October 31st. Have the bid opening, and we'll take board action at the November meeting. I will tell you, the only change I made, not to the scope per se, but you recall that it had come in higher than the RIDE grant
Mhm.
budget. So I took the one component of the project, which is the kitchen exhaust hood for the kitchen area, and I put that as what's known as an add alternate. So should the bids come in higher, you don't have to accept that, and that gives you leeway to have a lower price. If you come in a safe range, you can opt to do that. It's not a mandatory component of the project. It's an attempt on us to just kind of upgrade the school. But it gives us some flexibility, because things could go either way. Now that all the bidders know each other's bids, we had 8 bids received. More than likely, at least the top 4 highest bidders are not going to bid. They were so far off and won't be able to come back down. It'll be a battle between the low bidder and the number 2 bidder. And either the low bidder says, hey, there's some room between me and number 2, maybe I can inch up a little bit. Or he says, hey, number 2 is going to come after my number and I'm going to go down to play it safe. So
Are new companies allowed to bid?
Mhm.
yes, it's completely open to everybody again. But everybody will have seen the numbers, so if it's in their ballpark.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Mr. Piero, may I?
Yes.
Mr. Tate, does this affect, and I did read everything, from the attorney, which I think is good, but does this affect our timeframe?
it could.
That was my question.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think if needed, I thought somebody had brought up if needed, we could hold a special meeting to get just the award once.
Right, but so then if we did that, it would not affect the timeframe to be done.
Time is straight.
In theory, it could, because we
It still can, we're a little bit behind. Okay.
We really won't know until we make an award,
Mhm.
and that bidder starts his purchasing process.
Mhm.
We have a timeframe in there when they have to get those, purchasing submittals and so on. And then it's a matter of how quick they can get this stuff expedited.
Is the supply chain better than it was?
It is better.
Okay, because I know for a while it was terrible.
No, yeah, it's,
When
It's
it-
better, but the supply chain for this type of stuff, traditionally, it's not shelf items. With the chiller from the middle school, we waited 19 months.
I remember
to have
that.
it delivered. I would think today, if we order that chiller, you might see it in 12 months.
Right,
which is
it's still 12 months.
When do we anticipate, when is the bid open?
It's October 31st.
October 3rd, okay.
Oh, so we do have a fairly, inside November meetings,
November,
Mid-November 20th.
the 19th?
19th,
Yeah,
something like that.
I
We
think
get it right to the attorney to review as soon as the bid. Press on, go through it together as quick as we can and then, okay.
So that meeting would be hard for November because we have to move off.
right, we'll close.
good luck. I hope, like everything else that always happens to work out with you, Mr. Take, I hope the timing of this thing also works
Not
out.
good.
Someone will come in and review it for free.
Next item on the agenda, number 4, is an ESIC project update. Just to let you know that the board recalls they approved a resolution at the last meeting to move forward with pricing on solar. So we are finalizing the solar scope now. I've been working closely with Honeywell and also Tri-State. If you recall, Tri-State is the firm that we hired to do the independent
Mhm.
energy audit. That's been ongoing. They finished up on Monday. Spent a lot of times in the schools, literally going through and counting every light bulb and then cataloging every piece of mechanical.
Central office also,
Yes.
they were in there.
So they put their independent study together. We have Honeywell's. I'm projecting that at the November meeting, I'll come to you with essentially what is the menu of options. In real simple terms, hey, we've identified $5 million worth of savings here. Here are some options that the board gets to choose from. Choose these chillers or these boilers or what have you. And we'll make recommendations on what is kind of our top priority. And the board can consider those, whether you want to go up to the full 5 million, you want to safe, go a little under, but that's what I'm anticipating at the November meeting.
I just would love millions of dollars in savings, so,
I'm still gonna catch millions of dollars if they don't.
yeah.
Mr. Tate, if you would, so when we approved that external auditor, is that process over? Have they gone over?
No, that's what's been going on. So they finished up field study on Monday at Mill Lake.
Okay,
So they're independently cataloging everything, and now they take all the data that they've got and they run it through their programs and give projections
the
on.
external auditor is the one that's running it through their program.
Yes.
Okay. That
That
is different
saves
from the
us-
solar.
That saves us the 12-month wait for the BPU to get the force. So they will do that. We have Honeywell's, we have theirs. This gets submitted to the BPU. The BPU does an analysis, come back, hopefully say all is good. And then we can.
I'm just a little confused, but that's different from the solar specific project, right?
No,
That's
so
for every,
It's all together.
it's almost been mine.
I thought whatever ESIP comes back, Honeywell comes back to us, but we could either go through the DOE or we could go through this external auditor, which would be faster, more expensive, which is what the route we took. That's for every project that we take,
That is going concurrently with what Honeywell did.
always concur,
Yes.
whatever projects we may take in the future also.
Yes. So the solar piece is the piece that we're honing in on now.
Okay,
But that saves really good time because there's no delay,
yeah.
because they're following each other.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it would have been,
A
it
year,
would be done November, December, submitted to the state and wait a year.
a year. No, it's the way to go because it's that.
We're gonna be ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's-
And the money you save in that year of energy pays for.
Pays for more than what it costs us to get.
And we have several pieces of mechanical equipment that, are just in a really bad way, which we don't have money to pay for. I mean, the chiller at Woodland School is operating on one compressor.
Mhm.
We've spoken with Dr. Say that she knows that there are gonna be days when it is 90 degrees out and they're only gonna be cooled down to the mid-70s or so. When it's 98 degrees, they're only gonna be getting into the 80s because it just doesn't have a fully functioning unit at this time. So those are the pieces that we will identify to you as, hey, these are our top priorities.
Mhm.
Our priorities.
Yeah.
To move forward.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. Any questions?
Next item, item 5, is discussion of board goals.
Yeah, so we've been talking about the board goals of each of the committees. Looking at the board goal from last year, it says the Board of Education is committed to addressing all facility needs of the district. The board will achieve this by addressing and planning for facility infrastructure programs, supporting stopgap projects that address facility needs. And we have kind of talked about this in finance of like the two,
PG&T and finance.
Yeah.
Working
kind
together.
of overlapping and.
You and Ms. Allen
So-
to figure out ways to move forward with her purview of paying for it. So you-
I think
your
this is
design,
a
her
perfect,
payment.
it's a perfect segue. You just talked about the
Yeah.
MIPSIP project, right? Can we put every capital improvement project that comes our way in the next year should go through the ESIP lens to see, can we fund that need through some energy saving program project? Or am I being overly ambitious here?
You're being overly ambitious.
You gotta just like.
I should not have given him that option. I should not
It's
have.
the board's discretion where you wanna, you
Spend the
can
money.
take all that money and say, we wanna put in a turf field. I'll tell you, you're not gonna have air conditioning, heating and so on,
Right.
elsewhere, but
We're gonna prioritize by, like you said, if Woodland's losing its air,
I mean, that has. to
we
be-
gotta get, that's a, so what, I would ask you is that if you could prioritize what we need for our board goals, facility-wise, and then from there, we can move to other things, bleachers and stuff like, once we know what we need
sure.
facility-wise, that's very important to the staff and students. And
The
then,
needs.
like you said, if
Oh, you
we
heard me whisper?
save money there. And if these projects come in and we come up with it, if we need 2 million, yet, like you said, we may save 5 million.
Right.
Then we'd have 3 million to look to do, move to other things. So I think this in the long run is really gonna help us a lot, but I think we
Absolutely.
need to prioritize the need for their students on top of everything else.
In broad strokes, without identifying projects, I will say that historically, over the past more than a decade, the board has set aside capital monies for facilities every
Mhm.
year, in the range of $2 million. And that has allowed you to be in a very unique position compared to other districts. In that, we have systematically been able to take care of roofs and
Mhm.
Brookside, we're not doing any HVAC upgrades there because 4 years ago, we did an overhaul there under capital. We've systematically done our roofs. There are many districts, including the one I live in. They let everything go and they put out a referendum for roofs and boilers and those kind of things.
And the community passes those, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But that doesn't happen here because, we've done well in that.
We're back in the game.
Where the hiccups have come in though is with the stopgap projects. The years where we have taken a couple $1 million, a couple $100,000 and put towards turning libraries into classrooms and so on. We said, okay, we're gonna push this roof away. And then the next year, this past year, we did the golf range. Okay, that money could have gone for air conditionings. No. The year we did Brookside Library stopgap, that should have gone for HVAC. So we have tabled projects, infrastructure projects for growth. But aside from that, if in the board's philosophy, you say we want to continue to allocate funds, whatever, $1.5 million, $2 million for capital, it serves you well in the long run, rather than letting everything expire and then being in a bad position.
Being in a bad position.
Mr.
I agree
Bureau,
with that.
if I can also just ask, just because I went back to look at the strategic plans to see where this sort of lines up. And I know we're doing the demographers study shortly. In terms of like buildings and ground aspect for full day kindergarten, depending on what the numbers show, to see, like, I guess, kind of audit what we would need at the buildings and once the numbers are there, because we would have the demographers report within this year. So the goal of like determining what would be needed, is that something that could be considered for a goal? Just not doing the actual projects, but seeing what has to be done.
Well, it's gonna be my superintendent's goal. So you know, it's already in there, and I have to work directly with, Dr. Lehman and Mr. Tague, because it's all about taking tomography's report, then we look at, I'm not saying we're redistricting, I'm saying, is that a concept that we want to look at based upon the numbers? We want to look at, making sure that you have toileting rooms, right, in the kindergarten rooms. And then we've also, one thing that Dr. Lehman reminds me, and I'm glad he does constantly, is we have certain classes displaced on the stage. If we're going to spend the money to do what we need to do, to have a full day kindergarten program, shouldn't we then make sure that we take those children off the stage and then put them in a room? What does that look like? So all of this is absolutely, I don't know, and that's, the board's decision. Do you want to actually write in a board goal the words kindergarten? You could. I mean, I'm going to have it as one. I don't know.
Start it next year, but to do the restart.
It's already been, we put it as
When
board
we
goal.
get the demographer report, my only other question is, and I guess you two would know, or Mr. Tague is, like, say Woodland School has 400 kids. You would know how many classrooms, how many kids are broken down. Like, would we, like, my
Make it a
thought
third,
process,
fourth, fifth?
if say there's 20 kids in fourth grade.
Right.
And we put 25 kids in fourth
Right.
grade, does that free up, like, class?
Well, here's the whole thing, also with classrooms, and then you'd have to look at it, it's not redistricting necessarily, but it's reallocating, because right now, as we know, Woodland's a very small school, they have fourth and fifth grade only.
Yeah.
So when we look at kindergarten, well, what are we looking at? We're looking at our Oak Tree, we're looking at our Buckley Brook, and we're looking at our Mill
Mill
Lake.
Lake.
So we're looking at those three schools. So thinking really far out of the box, instead of saying, can we afford to move third grade? Let's just say, I'm not saying it's gonna happen. From Mill Lake, you might turn around and say, well, you know what? Maybe Mill Lake, maybe Mill Lake would have kindergarten, just saying we look at, the extra building, and maybe Buckley Brook wouldn't. I'm not saying that we're not. I'm just saying, just because we have.
General
schools-
classroom.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like, when you look at Buckley Brook and Oak Tree, they're not that far. You know what I'm saying? It's really not that far of a distance, so I don't, we don't know. Yeah, you want to talk about, because we started looking at the classrooms already.
So, and I'm going to toss it to Mr. Tague to kind of close the loop, but after the democracy report, a decision has to be made about what the district looks like, and then we toss it to Mr. Tague.
Mhm.
And Mr. Tague then works with us to work with an engineering firm to say, this is your plan, how does it get implemented in the district? If we say, this is our expectation about what our program is gonna look like, they then take a look at our buildings and say, all right, you got this many rooms, these kind of bathrooms, we gotta tweak this and add on to this. And we've done that before with DIG and SSB in the development of the new construction projects and all the additions and stuff. That's the step that's after the determination of what it looks like.
And then the money
But the,
comes afterwards.
the decision of what it looks like is what can happen this spring. So that starts
Mhm.
right after we get the
Yes.
difference report. If the decision is, we focus on kindergarten, we may have to go back to the demographer because he also works on redistricting. Because to say, if we tweak 5 kids in a class, are we pulling neighborhoods
Yeah.
of students? And if we do that,
Does it
He
affect the
has-
neighbor that may not be in that
it's
school?
connected to transportation.
Mhm.
Is it?
You'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, so
Either way, we may have to move some things around.
Correct.
Or not.
Or not.
Or not,
I mean,
depending
you could
on.
get really lucky, I'm not
But-
saying it's
but
gonna
that-
happen,
that
and it
whole
could just
process-
be equal in every building.
That whole process happens because, I'm going to quote Mr. Tate,
Function
function
follows form.
before the form.
Well,
The form is the
follow-
structure of the building, right? The function of what it needs to look like, we need to communicate that to the architects or to the project planners. So they're not going to tell us, this is what you need to do. We're going to say, this is what we want, and they're going to create a project
For us to do.
with our existing buildings. and make
Form
it-
follows.
Is that, form follows?
Form. So I think the key is, and then it's the cost. So we openly say DIG groups, they're wonderful. We just say it, they're professional, they're exceptional. We've utilized them in so many projects. If they were the service professional that we utilize, there is a cost, as there should be, because everything you have to pay for, but it's a cost that we really, like, we already know the demographer cost, let me rephrase, we already have monies in the budget for a demographer.
Yeah.
We know that. So then we have to say, okay, what would the cost be? Do we make sure we have the monies? Because you can't do anything until you
For like a design.
have to.
So if you want to go that route in 25-26 budget,
Mhm.
allocate money for limited design studies, what's called.
So do you have it, please? 150,000?
Until no,
And
are you talking just 300 seats in kindergarten, or are you talking? You really have to wait for that.
The report.
is the design, because I know you mentioned DIG, is that something that is usually like a competitive bid or is that?
No, we don't have to. It's a services professional. We can hire them.
Limited design.
Limited design study.
Coming back to the board goals, right? While I know that it's an overarching goal for us to somehow make this a reality,
Mhm.
kindergarten, we don't really need to your point, specify
I
the
agree.
kindergarten. And to Mr. Take's point of allocating budget, right? We don't have to allocate X amount of dollars because our board goals are a bird's eye view of, that's our intention,
Right.
not spelling out the details. which
That's what we
your
do.
purview. If we just look at the last year's board goal one, well, I can see some modifications here, to the 2 bullets where we can add the caveat that we would, being fiscally responsible, try to address the stopgap projects and facility needs through the savings from
From
the
the
ESIP
ESIP.
program. Just adding those words there. We're not saying that that's the only way we will do that. We're saying we want to do it, but as much as possible, we'll use the money. And then the part that talks about addressing and planning for facility infrastructure projects. we could-
You just mentioned kindergarten by just saying that.
No, but we could to address the fact that we are as a board looking to start kindergarten. Growing curriculum, needs.
Right.
Some words that would indicate that we are looking to handle our facility needs with those 2 lenses. One, we want to add full day kindergarten.
So how about
We
enhancing,
want to be more fiscally responsible and empowered, through our savings first before we.
maybe you use the language where you said curriculum, maybe use the language of to enhance our,
Educational operations.
yes, the educational foundation.
Foundation.
Educational, because what do you think of when you think of,
Creative.
what do you think of when you think of kindergarten foundation?
Without
educational foundation?
level.
So,
And I do want to somehow,
Sorry.
make sure that as a board in your budget, what Mr. Take said that we've been doing for a long time now, I don't think we should ever go away from that.
Right.
Given the age of our buildings,
you're.
given, and he's right, I was over ambitious. It'll help us do more, ESIP will help us do more, but our needs are also going to keep
I
growing
think-
because our buildings are really aging.
I think what we need to do is get the demographer's report. Once we have that, Mr. Tate could get us a price to do the limited design study. And maybe we could get that done in 25-26 budget,
Yeah.
see where it is. and-
Or maybe the 24-25 budget.
Well,
This year?
we won't be able to do it without when will we have?
No, but this year, is our 24-25 budget.
But we won't,
That's what we're doing.
we don't know what it costs until we have to.
No, but the design study costs, if we did it in the spring of this year, if we had, I would speak with Ms. Allen, of course, if we had it in the 24-25 budget.
But he doesn't know the cost because we don't.
No, but I'm saying, no, we don't, I'm saying the money.
Report first.
To get the cost.
We need the report first, yes.
No, what I'm saying is, I don't know, have any idea what it is. I'm gonna say $100,000, I don't know, $50,000, whatever the cost is. So we do this quite often. We go to Ms. Allen and say, we don't, 25-26 hasn't come yet. This current year that we're physically sitting in is our 24-25. So if we get the numbers from tomorrow for, let's say, February, and we want to go out to pay our DI, just whomever, pay the engineering firm, we might have money in this budget.
Done that in the past,
Yes, we
right?
have, many times.
We've
So
examined
then we
this in the last
be able to
year.
spend it now.
So we've approved design
If
work.
there's money left over, yes.
Right, exactly. And
if it is
sometimes,
in
and
that
sometimes there is.
1,000 range, it's
And, yeah.
able
Yeah.
to.
I mean, it's $500,000.
It has always helped us to get a head start.
Yeah, if we have the money.
On the
yes.
paperwork as well, right?
Quick thought, because when we had our legislators here, they had asked like, what can they do? And they had asked the cost of full day kindergarten.
And that's when we just threw out the number of
Right.
19,000,
But what
19
we-
million, 17.
Asked them now, while obviously we would love for them to just give us $15 million, so we can just put it in there right away.
The numbers done, right?
What if we ask them to sponsor the design study if we don't have the funding?
And we'll take anything they can sponsor.
Well,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Right. Really to put that in the letter, like we wanted to do a design, like a, what's it called, project scope.
Well, it's kind of when they gave us $1 million that we didn't know we were getting.
But I also don't want to limit it to,
Oh,
you're
you
just-
take the 100 design.
Right, yeah, well, here's.
I mean,
keep the rest
$100,000.
later.
No, well, we were gonna give you $2 million.
they gave us 300,000. President Fabiano, they gave us 300,000 and thought it was gonna pay for kindergarten.
I mean, we're all on the same page. Everybody wants full-time kindergarten, so I think now we just gotta do it gradually and do it the right way. We get the offer, we do the study, and when the study's done, we have to try to figure out a way.
And if it's a referendum, we have to look at what is
Maybe by
that.
then, we may be able to get state aid, maybe more kindergarten state aid.
Question out.
Since we're one of the few districts that doesn't have full-time
I agree.
kindergarten.
Well, it
maybe
could've
we
passed
can
down yesterday,
still get this
nothing,
state to
right?
give
And
us
they
more
failed.
money, just to do the full-time kindergarten. So we're one of very few towns that don't have it. So I think that
That would open up
we have an
avenues
idea.
by
maybe we
financial.
could get our legislators to, sponsor a bill I know other districts did it with pre-K, which
Yeah.
is sad that you could do it in pre-K, but you can't do it in
Yeah.
kindergarten. It doesn't make sense.
And you can't get any of all that, and there's lots of money out there for pre-K.
So much money out there.
We can't touch it.
To get that.
I could just add one thing, so the demographer's report, we would look to move on that within the next month or so. when that becomes
Yes.
available. Is the board still comfortable with going with Ross Haber Associates,
I
who
was.
have done the previous one?
Has it been, I mean, it
He's
seemed like
accurate.
the last one was pretty accurate.
Yes, he was very accurate.
The last one you.
It was very accurate.
What do you guys recommend? I mean,
Is there a reason to consider anybody else? Like,
No.
has there been anybody?
No, the board,
Highly recommended.
last time we went through, and the
We
board
did.
wanted to consider other people, but ended up going back to Haber when we saw cost from others and process.
And he's accurate,
If it's gonna make the process faster, I think it just makes
because
sense.
then he can start having the conversations with the township, even though I know he doesn't have the exact numbers that he
Yeah.
needs, but, right, that's what you had said.
As long as he's accurate. Yeah.
He was very accurate.
Next item on the agenda is welcoming our new transportation director. Welcome.
Let's round of applause, welcome.
She officially is here as of Monday. Tell us a little about something about yourself.
Well, I've been doing this for over 30 years.
okay.
I started from a driver, worked my way up. I've done every facet there is of people transportation, and I actually enjoy it. I do. My kids are all grown now, so now I'm at a point where I can give my all to this, which I like.
Excellent.
They all graduated college, they're finding their way, some found their way, and this is my passion now. I'm really excited to be here. I really am.
We welcome you and we would, whatever you need, we're here to support.
Thank you.
Transportation is very important. We know over the last few years that transportation has been really rough with finding bus drivers and filling routes. And hopefully now things are gonna get a little better. And I think we're off to a good start so far this year. And
Yes.
let's hope it stays that way. But, whatever your needs are, get in touch with Dr. Chandling and, we'll try to get you whatever you think you need. get our children to school and keep them safe.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be working very closely with Dr.
Yes, and we have a very supportive board and we have a great committee and, yes, I will be visiting. I was told that, like, I visit the schools, they want me to come visit transportation, so. And Miss Christie has also said that she'd like to come visit transportation, so we're gonna be helping and we're gonna be talking about professional development for our drivers and for our paras and
training.
training.
Right.
Yes.
That's a
And
big
more
one.
drivers, and if you find, ways that you think we could entice more drivers, I mean, you're the expert in this.
Well-
And if there, different things that you could do to help us, get people to come here and.
I definitely want to,
Happy.
yeah, I want to start training people, bring them in from the ground up, and I think this way we'll be able to get more people to come in to the district to drive if we do offer the training.
I know, I know, a lady that did it in Jackson Township. She went there, they trained her, and now she's a bus driver there. They pretty much walked her through the whole thing, got her CDL. She said it was a pleasure to do.
Is there any way that we as a board can support you?
Yes.
Let us know.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll be working, yeah,
And we are happy to support you in any way that we can.
And Miss Christie is a wonderful, wonderful resource, and we're going to be working closely together, all of us, to really see what it is that you need with the trainings, because we feel we are a wonderful district and we have really good kids. And, if you're gonna be a bus driver, it's a very hard job, but I can tell you that if I had to be a bus driver, this is a district I would be a bus driver in.
The only thing I would say besides what everybody else has said is, the one thing that you will ever hear from us, or our only ask to you would be to ensure that the parents, the community members are hearing from you at all the right times. It's not an easy department to run. There will always be, little issues here and there. All that they need is, communication.
Absolutely, I
If your
agree.
team is good enough, on time with that, I don't think we will ever hear anything. But when we hear something, then that's when we'll come asking you, how's the communication being with one? Hopefully it never comes
Communications
to.
are very big with us. Everything is.
Yeah.
And, I don't know your district came from, what kind of communication they did, if it's different than ours, or, I know there's different things out there. There's bus apps now, and different communication systems, and, we'll look for you to tell us what would be the best way to move forward with our communications, if you think there's something that we need to change.
Well, I definitely think with the parents, they want to hear an answer, and if I can't get to them right away, I definitely will get back to them. In my other district, I work the same way. If I had a phone call concern, and maybe not right that moment unless it was an emergency, but I always got in touch with the parents, and I realized over the years, that's what they want. They wanted to hear something. They wanted an answer. At some point, they wanted to hear what was going on. If there was a problem, what kind of solution we could work out between, if it was the driver, if it was the route. So I am big on
And,
communication.
and alerts also, so if you have, the communication about the routes.
Yeah, there's
And,
running
right,
late.
and you'll learn your principles, and they're great about sending out communication also. And I was just whispering to Dr. Lehman, because we are in the process of changing our website. We're still calling it Blackboard Connect, because that's what I have to call it when I do my thing. But eventually it'll be something else, and you'll be part of that as well. And the same thing if you need new training, because, letting them know Route 34 is gonna be late, even if it's 10 or 15, 10 minutes for a parent, especially with the little ones, to know they don't have to be here, they're gonna be late. I think you cannot overly communicate when it comes to the safety or the whereabouts. Where is my child is huge here. And we're very proud of that, because, better to have parents that are overly than have parents that are not involved. And in this district, you have the overly.
Which along with that, I did hear compliment about the transportation email address, and that it was easier to write down, someone said, like, to write down the problem to send rather than having to call and, handle it that way.
And that works out good, because as the director of communication, Mr. Moraldo, who you already met, in addition to yourself as the transportation director, he does read it, go on it. That's how we learn things, there was, whenever situations occur. So I do think that is very helpful, because sometimes they're not answering the phone, doesn't mean they're not answering the phone. They're not answering the phone because they're dealing with so many other things. So that email is fabulous. I agree. And I had, except for the situation that we dealt with, and we talked a little bit about the magnet school runs, and we're going to handle it in advance of any concerns for next year. But I haven't heard anything else that's negative. So I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, we're off to an excellent start this year. And
Yes, we are.
Haven't
Knock on wood.
heard any
Yeah,
complaints.
no, I haven't either.
Yeah.
Actually, my
We
friends
had
even
some
say that.
pickups at the beginning of the year, they're all straightened out now, and
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
so let's hope that,
No one
your
gets
staff
hurt.
stays healthy and
Good luck.
your bus drivers show up to work every day and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, it's a compliment, and this is Marta, we had managed, we even started talking about incentives and opportunities, and we're gonna speak with the MTA, what it looks like, for acknowledgement for good attendance and, getting people, dare I say, excited to come to work. We really need that. And that's the cultural piece, it can't always be monetarily because, they are part of our MTA and what we do. We have to always be equal and make sure that we follow the contracts. But at the same time, what are other ways? So we'll continue to work on that.
I've been brainstorming, trying to come up with different ideas, so
So,
I think it'll be good.
I do
And
too.
I've been meeting the drivers, they seem excited, Kathy was wonderful, but, now she can go rest and relax, enjoy her life,
Yeah. So that's great. We're well welcome, and like I said, everybody's here, is here to help.
Thank you, I
We're
appreciate
here to
it.
make it a very nice place to work, and like I said, our main goal is safety of the children and get them to and from school.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Good.
Leave security.
Okay.
Yes, please.
At that point now, we are gonna end our EG&T meeting. Thanks, everyone. You go offline.